The actual definition of fieldcraft that people aren't aware of is living, operating, moving, and communicating in the field.
Hey guys, this is Hard Time Strongman, and today we're joined by our guests from First Response Fieldcraft, Nomad and Static. Guys, you want to introduce yourselves?
Awesome. Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead. Thanks, guys. Nomad here. Yeah, co-host of First Response Fieldcraft podcast with Static. Um, yeah, and we just kind of have a podcast. We have a website where we just kind of pump out Fieldcraft articles, and then we have a joint Instagram page where we're just trying to spread some generic Fieldcraft knowledge that can be applicable to multiple people, not just gear nerds.
Guys, thanks for coming on. It's so great to have y'all. I mean, we've been excited for this conversation for weeks now. I think that it's so great to find in this community someone that shares your same values, that shares your same drive, and you guys really, I feel like you put it best. We're cut from the same cloth, so it's great to have you guys on to share your knowledge and to hopefully build up a relationship going forward where we can really add to this community.
100%. Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, when Static and I talked about that before, we even set up a time to chat with you guys. I was like, oh man, another podcast that I actually want to listen to. And the dudes sound like us. They're just a little more polite than we are, because we noticed that too. You guys blur out all your swearing, and Static's just constantly like, we're either doxing each other or we're just getting mad, or we constantly disagree, and people are like, how the hell do you guys work together?
For every hour we record, there's probably 3 hours that we have to cut out.
Yes.
So it's totally fine. Yeah, I mean, that decision was made around like what, episode 3 or 4, so a few weeks, almost a month of doing this. We got approached by a couple listeners saying that like, hey man, like, we love what you're putting out, but I'd love to listen to this with my sons, or I'd love to listen to this with my family, church group, whatever. So we just take a little bit and cut out, try to get out to everybody. Our ethos, our mission statement is to train up a better class of man. So we're trying to reach everybody, to bring everybody up, not just people who can former military, former LEO, but we really feel like that this skill set, this mindset is something that everybody should have. Hey man, from what I've listened to you guys, and I've listened to every episode, you guys are just starting out, like, and you've been putting out amazing content compared to the branding or essentially commercials that everyone else is putting up on IG or whatever else. You guys are actually putting out really education rich content, really dense content out there. So whatever works, man. I'm a fan.
That's totally true too, because like there's a lot of people that they're rattling on about shooting, they're rattling on about gear, all this crap, but nobody's really touching on fieldcraft or bushcraft, and you guys are. And I know before I even started talking to you guys, I thought they were one and the same thing. But as soon as I started talking to you guys, listening to your podcast, I'm like, oh, I was wrong. Let's delve deeper into this.
Well, I love what you said. Yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say I love what you said about fieldcrafting is something that everyone needs to know. I was just thinking of anytime that I've gone hunting, camping, if I was out in a field exercise, when you strip everything else away, the little tasks, the little proficiencies that you just do naturally, that's all fundamentals. And just think, if you don't have that, then I mean, you're screwed. You're screwed.
100%.
Yeah. Okay, great. Before we get into that, do you guys want to share kind of your background, how you've come to earn this skill set, and how you guys got together?
Sure. You want to go first, Static? This time we'll go back and forth. Yeah, and then I was kind of honestly the total opposite approach, especially whenever we always bring up that I'm the Canadian, he's the American. People assume everyone in Canada wears like plaid and lives outside and does outdoor things, but I grew up straight up like urban hell. I had never camped before basic, and when I tell people that, they're like shocked. They're like, "Hey, how is this guy talking fieldcraft then?" But I was fortunate where I joined the military extremely young. I was like just out of high school, and then because like we've talked about before offline as well, the military is what you make of it, right? So if you're super motivated and super keen, and if you're physically fit, kind of opportunities open up for you. So I was able to go to like certain units, and I learned different skills. And then I got out of the military, switched to the LE side for a bit. It kind of was kind of whack in Canada, so I disagreed with it. And then I really just focused on a lot of outdoor stuff when I got out, especially like specifically the hiking. And I'm slowly getting into hunting. And then just like Static said before, we've honestly found each other through. I found his YouTube channel first. As funny as that sounds, I found him on YouTube, and then I liked his content. And I commented, and then he actually commented back, and then we just went back and forth. And then eventually, I found him on Instagram, and we were laughing. I'm like, wow, we're pretty similar in our kind of philosophy. So that's kind of where we are today.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's how you guys found us. I mean,
yeah,
we just started talking back and forth on IG, and it's like, oh man, these guys are actually legit. Cool.
That and our mutual hatred for these guys that push nods.
There it is.
You're the first one to bring it
Yep,
up.
I'm going to. I mentioned it in the last episode too.
Well, and
yeah.
Yeah,
like since we started, I'm pretty sure we constantly say skills over gear, and then people get really upset about it. But
well, exactly, skills over gear. You guys say assets, not liabilities.
Yeah.
But you can't buy your way into proficiency.
Yeah, and like again, all four of us being ex-military, being in the infantry, we've all said this multiple times, and anyone listening who was like, obviously there is better gear. Like you can do better things with better gear, but kind of like what Static said earlier, if you don't have the basic fundamentals down, the most high-speed gear doesn't mean. And we're trying to take that approach with Fieldcraft, even like how to pack a ruck, something so simple, right? I could give you $1,000 ruck, but if you don't understand the concept on how to waterproof your or where to put the weight, it doesn't really matter. So.
Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you. I knew a guy, so a buddy of mine was a sniper squad leader back in the day when he was in the Marines, and he was telling me about a personal rifle that he owned, and he said he was just breaking down everything that he had bought and how he built it out, and he said, yeah, I could get better stuff, but I'm not going to outshoot this rifle.
Yeah.
And one that speaks to his humility, but also just being real. I mean, it's a machine. It's going to do what it's supposed to do if you calibrate it right. But you are the failure point. So until you get yourself good enough, it doesn't matter.
I mean, they got to learn how to use the three cheese holes.
Well, I think people get upset because you're forcing them to take a hard look at where they're at, not where I'd like to be in a year or 5 years, not with, oh, if I had this, or oh, if I didn't have this, but where you're at right now. Because especially what you guys talk about gear, we've talked about off the show about using what you have. It'd be great to have this ruck or that rifle, but using what you have to its fullest extent. Doing more with less. I think people hate that because it forces them to look at their deficiencies. Because when you strip all the gear away, where you're left with you.
Yeah.
If you suck at PT, you suck at PT, man. Doesn't matter if you have a good ruck or a good rifle or anything. If you can't get up the mountain, you can't get up the mountain. And that's I think that's where the rub comes in.
We were also talking too that like, because now everyone's pushing a brand, kind of like what you were saying at the beginning. People are selling a piece of kit. So because we're openly have said multiple times we're never going to sell anything other than like we just want to share skills. So that like upsets a lot of people because the consumerism of it is like you said earlier, people want to just buy something to fix the solution. Whereas we're trying to take the approach that, well, we could teach you a skill and you don't need that piece of gear now. You can arguably
everybody selling nods.
Look, for real, you absolutely need nods.
Yeah, everybody needs nods, but
don't leave home without them.
If you don't have nods, you're gonna get clapped by a 50-year-old fat guy. Hey, look, man. If you're not combat effective, you're not combat effective.
Yeah.
If your wife is, that guy's morale, then that's what he needs at that time. Think of the community, okay? Think of the community. It's not all about you.
The dog is worth it.
Yeah, and it's just there's so many guys, right, that just want to buy whatever piece of kit because, again, going back to our military background, like we were all that private who saw that E6 who had a better chest rig, and you're like, my reload will be better. I'm like, dude, that guy's reload's solid because he's not incompetent. It's got nothing to do with the chest rig, but people don't want to hear that, right?
Yeah.
Or he's never reloaded in his life in actual combat.
Yeah. Exactly, right? And then and just like Static keeps saying, right, we're kind of, I don't want to say we're not pushing either side. We're just trying to remain neutral to help the most amount of people, and people don't like that they can't read that, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because we're not specifically helping the tactical Minutemen dudes, but we're not discarding that single mom whose 12-year-old boy wants to get into scouts. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We're kind of like in the middle. Yeah, actually, yeah, this was the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we usually just say military, and then the other side too is like Static has openly said he's still working in law enforcement, and I said I'm not, and like you guys obviously like not for this recording the people listening, but like Static and I have been in person and he jokes and says like, "Okay, I'm pretty recognizable. You guys see me on video, I'm pretty recognizable." And then we explain like it's a security thing for our families because he's still in it and I'm not. And I come from such
Yeah.
a small military unit where the dudes like they probably recognize my voice. So I'm like, I'm just keeping it pretty neutral. So just like he said, we're not living on our past laurels. It's just experience to us, and we're focused on what we're doing now. And people don't like that,
Right.
right?
Yeah, exactly. And we've tried to stay pretty open about that as well.
Yeah.
Yes, we were in the infantry. Was I at a high speed unit? No.
Oh, God,
Did I
no.
deploy? Yes. Did I do high speed stuff?
Sometimes.
Your mileage may vary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, most of the time, no.
Yeah.
And I've tried to be very open about this both on IG and on the podcast. I've learned more being outside of the Army than I ever did when I was
100%.
because
100%.
my drive. Yeah,
100%.
because my drive wasn't there.
Yeah.
When it was my job, I didn't want to do it. Funny enough, human nature. But when it's my interest, when it's my passion, I want to learn everything. So I'm diving into FMs. I'm giving classes because the best way to retain information is to teach, right?
Yeah.
We know that. So I've learned so much more being out and teaching guys than I ever did when I was in. So no, it doesn't matter what your past, resume is. What are you doing now, like you said? And I like to think of it kind of like triaging what you were saying, Stag, about who gets the most out of your content, right? So we're starting from bare bones foundation, right? And we're trying to build up. So the information we put out is not going to matter to some people. A lot of this bare bones basic stuff, it's going to be, a lot of guys are already going to know it. That's fine. We're focusing on people who don't know. As we go up, if you can glean any information, if you can get anything out of our classes, take it. That's what it's there for. So it's not going to be for everybody all the time, but we're trying to put out the most best information that we possibly can so that we can, we don't have to call back in, 2 or 3 episodes and, renege on what we said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. And like, even from before we organized this podcast together, it definitely sounded like all 4 of us were kind of coming at this approach from the same angle. So it was like very refreshing for even us to hear whenever we listen to your guys' show as well. So
yeah, thanks a lot. So we want to talk about the 4 pillars of survival. So you guys want to kind of dive into that?
Sure. Do you want me to go first, dude? Okay, yeah. So again, for those that aren't or are following on like our Instagram, mine's like Nomadic Fieldcraft, and we said that would kind of be like our training section, and then we have the first Response Fieldcraft one, which is mostly our podcast and our website. And on the Nomadic Fieldcraft page, I have a logo, and it's essentially just the 4 pillars of survival. I didn't come up with this term; it was taught to me on a course I did in the military. But again, we thought that this could apply to a wide gambit of people, right? Not just military dudes, not just hikers, hunters, like everyone. And essentially, the 4 pillars of survival, like we said earlier, you need all 4 to survive, and they're set in a certain order. So the first one is shelter. And how it's kind of broken down is no matter the environment, most people, if you're out in inclement weather, you're going to die within 3 hours of not seeking shelter. Even if it's, sunny, summer, whatever. The minute there's rain, you're probably going to get pretty up or whatever. So yeah, so we have shelter, fire, water, and then food. And then again, it's set in a certain order because you need one before the other, right? And like everyone always hears about the rule of 3. People have said it before, and they don't like, again, they never really talk about shelter. People are always like, okay, you can last 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. But in reality, we're like, well, if you can actually last 3 hours without shelter. So that's why kind of shelter and fire are 1 and 2 on the kind of the pillar platform.
So what do you guys like to prioritize with fire? Because you guys already talked about you don't like to focus on like the absolute bare bones primitive stuff. That's not good for economy of work, for priorities of work. It takes too much time, too much effort. So where do you guys sit on that with I guess gear versus hard skills.
Yeah, and like I would definitely agree that it's definitely like the easiest to use, and we've talked about it before. Even like teaching a kid to use a ferro rod is pretty simple, or like how you were talking, Seven, economy of effort, right? Like everyone knows when you're uncomfortable and you're tired and like you're not getting enough nutrients, and like again, I'm not on the fire drill, and we've talked about this, or the bow drill, or any other fire lay, but it's like you're gonna take so much
I will.
energy. You're gonna take so much energy, and like it's not realistic. Whereas if we can just get every human to carry a ferro rod in their pocket and have it tied off so they don't lose it, and like we constantly on our show reference the television show Alone because tons of people have seen it. It's very popular, and we always get on that dude who loses his ferro rod, but as soon as he does,
Yep.
man, he gives up. He
Drops in the
he
fire.
gives up.
Yeah,
he gives
quit.
up every time, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
But he's
yeah.
realistic. He's realistic though. He's like, what
Right?
what do you want
Yeah,
me to do?
and like that comes down to a thing again we said, and like I'm not on him for losing it because again we've all been there where we've lost stuff. But
Yeah.
going back to our fieldcraft like mantra or whatever, the actual definition of fieldcraft that people aren't aware of is living, operating, moving, and communicating in the field. So if you can't do any of those things because you lost something, you failed. You fucked up.
Yeah.
And again, going back to our military background that all of us have, I'm sure we've all been that private where you got told put something in this pocket, don't lose it, or you're going to be like a liability. And the ferro rod is a perfect example. And Static and I have talked about this so many times. Again, not on that dude because he is a beast, has a YouTube. The guy's also Canadian, he has a huge following. But Static and I joke and say, as soon as you're done using the ferro rod, man, I literally put it in my pocket before I do anything else. I do not put it on the ground.
Mhm.
I don't put it like by my knee. It's literally in my pocket. And then in winter conditions, because again, I live in like Northwest Canada, there's snow like 9 months out of the year. For me specifically, my ferro rod in the winter, I use it on a longer lanyard and I have it on my neck. So I can't lose it. There's no possibility I'm going to lose this. And again, this isn't some high speed SEAL Team 6 Navy SEAL trick. It's just very basic fieldcraft that if you implement it every single time by repetition, when you are tired and hungry and fucked up, you're not going to lose it.
Absolutely.
It's straight up anxiety is what it is.
Oh god, yes. Dude,
I can't tell you how many times someone said, "Hey, do you have your cat card?" And you're like, "I know I have it, but I check anyways."
it's still that moment
because
of
I'm not about
panic.
to lose
Yes.
that. But also, what you're saying about the ferro rod, that speaks for
Yes.
redundancies, right? They're so cheap, they're so small, they weigh so little. You know, why not have 2 or 3 in your kit? You know, it's too important.
You know, honestly, I almost view fire as almost like the 95% solution.
Yeah.
It is the end all be all. It will cause every other piece of that to fail if it's not there. Like you can still make up for a lot of the other things, but if you don't have fire, I don't care who you are, you're
Yeah. 100%.
If you can't fix, you know, if you can't answer the question with fire, you're asking the wrong questions.
fair.
He would be the apex predator
Holy Jesus
on
Christ.
whatever continent he was in.
If he had nods. There's so many people too that like whenever we talk about this again from the very brief information we give about the military background or people who are in, they're like, well, I've never had a fire in the army. And I'm like, yeah, I never have either. But I will tell you though, I have been in situations where we needed one because someone was going to die and people didn't know how to make it, or they didn't carry a fire in bag kit. So like, yeah, we usually call it the fib, like fire in bag, because it's like a term the British military use. But regardless of their operations, those dudes carry it in their belt kit. It's not because they're going to have a fire and like turn their patrol base into a camping trip. It's for that, you know, that 1% chance you have to do it. They have an 80% solution, and people forget that.
Right.
Yeah. Hashtag GWAT.
Wow, and it blew my mind just thinking about, you know, the way that we conducted military operations, right, out of the, you know, out of FOB, right? When, you know, you think back to World War II, and you had guys who, you know, their mission, they didn't call for them to, you know, hop in a Striker, hop in a Black Hawk, you know, fly down, make a couple 100-meter movement, do their thing, and then fly back out. No, you were hoofing it from town to town. And, you know, if you could resupply, you could resupply. If not, figure it out. And, you know, there were, you know, you had your follow-on orders and you just did, you know, you just figured it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's crazy to think of how far away we've come from that as a, you know, as a military where, you know, you expected so much more out of these guys. You know, you hear about all the Medal of Honor recipients who, you know, like there's one dude who held a little town square by himself. You know, like,
oh god,
blind as bat, without glasses, like held off an entire like German assault, like because all his buddies died.
Yeah,
he just did it by himself until help came.
Just like crazy
And
back
it's
then
like,
compared to
yeah,
now.
it's like, could you expect that out of a guy right now?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, because
That's because modern day militaries they're so reliant on their supply lines.
yes.
Like our, the industrial honestly, it's a modern day industrial revolution where we are now able to move personnel, supplies, ammunition, all that stuff in like record breaking time. Like if you need ammo, it can be
Anywhere
there
in the world.
within
Yeah.
what 20 minutes. Black Hawk helicopter flies across, mags in, ammo in mags, and they're just dumping the thing out of the thing in mid flight. And hey, let's resupply and keep going. But back then, yeah, like you were hoofing it. If you ran out of ammo, hey, there's a German rifle right there. Pick it up, grab his ammo, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's a
100%.
different class of man.
Yeah, and like people right now, and again, it's like not to sound like a broken record, but like relying on the supply chain is relying on gear. And like we've talked about that. Static and I talk about that all the time, that
Hmm.
even in my experience in the military, even overseas, like I didn't go anywhere longer than 3 days without food or water. Like it showed up on like a sling load
Hmm.
or a helicopter. So like again,
Yep.
like I
Yeah.
never like overseas I did not carry a big lighter. That's just not what we did. But when you look back at it now, I'm like, it's kind of stupid. We didn't have like any shelter making other than a poncho.
Huh. I carried a big lighter.
But did you know how to? But did all your privates know how to make a shelter out of that poncho?
No.
Most of them, no, probably no,
No.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
let's be honest. All of our
Yeah.
privates were retarded.
yeah, yeah. Most
Yeah.
of most of the dudes that I knew were too busy griping about no internet in the fob or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean it just
It's
it
just
blows
very
my
different
mind.
now, and again, just like you guys, we're trying to like bring it back to a steady neutral point where we can eventually help ourselves because people can't rely on a system, especially with everything going on in the world. And again, we keep saying us both switching over to LE and you guys being in the military too. Like you kind of see how messed up it is right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean it's just sad, but like you said, you need to focus on
Yeah,
your families. You need to focus on your neighbors, your communities. If you build all that up, the government it becomes obsolete. I love what you said about you go through the hard times and you don't
yeah,
forget. You'll never forget
Yeah.
that. First thing I think of, and there's whole lifetime, right? You can think back and you can remember those
yeah.
nights. You'll never forget that. I remember one night in basic, E nothing 20-year-old kid, and we were set up in a field exercise. I had dug out my fighting position, bed down for the night, and I was sleeping. I woke up. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, and my entire fighting position with me in it was overflowing with water. It had rained during the night, and I was asleep in this huge puddle. And I remember just looking around, looking down, kicking out with my heel like a corner of my
Yeah.
fighting position, and then all the water drained out, and I was just shivering. And
Jesus.
I was just thinking in my head, I'm like, oh, dude, I don't know if will I die from this? I don't know. And I just like all my, and of course I didn't die. Yay.
Unfortunately.
But
Spoiler alert.
it was just like,
Unfortunately.
but you know what I never did after that? I never didn't have a drainage
Yeah.
system. And you know what I told every single person I ever saw digging a fire position? Dude, put in a drainage hole.
Lessons
Like,
learned.
every
Yeah.
person. Because no one wants to
Yeah.
live through that crap.
Well,
Nobody.
you know what's worse is the fact
So-
that I wasn't even allowed to dig fighting positions.
You just laid there
When
in
we
the throne
slept, we
freezing.
slept on the ground.
Yeah, I did
Yes.
that too. I did that too
Goodness.
whenever I did basic because they told us we hadn't earned it yet because we never got to battalion yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, you guys are losers.
Nice.
You only get fighting positions in battalion. You can lay in the prone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That blew. Then again, like that was when I utilized the idea of concealment.
Hmm.
You didn't have cover, so
Yeah.
I'm just like my buddy and I are literally just ripping branches off of freaking trees, greenery, and just stuffing it in front of us. So at least in our PB, like nobody can see us if they're coming at us, but we can definitely see them. But that was how I made my creature comfort. It blocked the wind at least a tiny bit, but it still sucked a lot.
I always love
Almost
the
as much as
dudes.
seeing your face.
I always love the dudes who would volunteer to be security on like the LMG. They're like, "Yeah, I got it, bro. You keep working." I'm like, "That motherfucker's sleeping. I can see him. His head's
Yep.
resting in the
Yep.
scope."
Yep.
It's always
Yeah.
those guys. Yeah.
I was gonna say you learned how to be wet, cold, and tired.
Yep.
So there you go.
Fueled by caffeine and hatred.
Goodness. So what we
Sorry, fire.
Whenever
Yeah.
fire, you guys
And
want to
then
talk about water?
Yeah. So water's got this huge debate. Again, actually, I'll let Static speak to it because I use liters, you guys use quarts, and I'm all up with the different measurements, but there's like this huge argument on how much water humans should carry or consume. But Static and I keep saying again, it's triple redundancy. As long as you can filter water or collect water, you don't really need to carry 10 liters. Again, it's environment based,
Yeah.
obviously, right? Because we live somewhere cold, and I'm not going to carry 10 liters up a mountain in Western Canada. That's retarded. There's probably fresh streams
Yeah,
somewhere.
no.
But if you're listening to this and you live in like Arizona, I'm like, you should probably have some 7 liters of water in your ruck. There's probably no fresh streams where you live. But again, it's this thing where people get so focused on where they live, or oh, this one time in the army I used a liter. I'm like, well, just like Static said, your drill sergeant was a fucking idiot. You probably should have had more water. So
Yeah.
To like a desert. Yeah.
Goodness.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Poor buddy.
He learned that lesson the hard way.
But that's the thing too. Stop listening to people on the internet
and look outside. Exactly. And dude, like there's so many DMs that Static and I get where it's like, hey, I live in this region, what should I use? And I straight up say, dude, I live in Northwest Canada. I don't live in your region. I do not know. But I can tell you what you probably shouldn't do. Like if that's the answer you want, I'll tell you what, like, you know, what not to do. But
yeah, but like what you said, you know, have your, you know, you should be able to filter and collect water on top of what you already have, right? So at any one point in our kits, we have, you know, the water we're already carrying, which, you know, your mileage may vary. We have, you know, chemical purification, we have mechanical, and we have boiling. Always. Yeah. And then, you know, you have your poncho or whatever else that you can use to collect, but that's more of a skill thing than anything. Yeah. Learn how to, you know, do more with less, being able to collect that water. But, you know, do you know where to collect that water? Do you know how to make it pure? How do you, like, you know, so many questions, so many follow-on things, you know, and, you know, the METC argument is, you know, way overdone and, you know, pisses people off. But, you know, like you said, you don't know everybody's situation. You know, if you can collect water. If you have to pack it out. But, you know, I don't know if it's just you. I don't know if you have packs. I don't know if you have a family. I don't know if you're looking over a community. I don't know if you're acting as a supply line for somebody else. You know, it depends on your situation, but you know your body better than anyone. Man, I smoke. Sorry. No, you're good, man. I was just saying, like, I blow through water.
I'm the same way.
When I hike.
I go through a lot of water.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And that's just how I, you know, just what I do. And, you know, if I don't have the water to burn through, then I have to make do, and I have to, you know, live with it. But, you know, like, pack your stuff, like, build out your kit to what you're doing in, you know, your situation. You know, I'm not a guy who could go out with one water bottle and be fine for a 10-click movement. I'm just not, you know, that's, you know, I'd be dying, man. But, you know, make your choices make sense. A recent example for us, I know you guys just went on a lot more hardcore of a field exercise, but
I knew
me and Six, we went on.
I knew you were going to bring this up.
Well, no, we went on a hike. And it was a 5 mile movement to 5 mile round trip, but so 2.5 mile to a waterfall. And, you know, we're going out with, you know, 5-6 other dudes, and like maybe 2 or 3 of them brought water.
Which is crazy.
Oh, God.
and then we get to the waterfall, and, you know, I end up like passing out my 2 canteens
to these guys
that I'm like pumping through my Sawyer filter, and then I throw, you know, 2 more quarts in with my aqua tabs, and, you know, we head back. But it's like, what do you think was gonna happen? You didn't think you were gonna get thirsty? This is Tennessee, man.
It's like, in the
there's
freaking
topography here,
in the freaking mountains of Tennessee, and you did not bring water. Like
that's bear scat. What do you think was gonna happen, dude? Like, come on.
These guys were probably counting on you two again, because it's like Static and I say this all the time. Whenever you're with normal people out of uniform, they're like, well, that dude was in the army, man. That guy has water for me. I'm like, no, dude, I got water for me. Like, you probably need your own water.
Yeah. It was so bad.
Yeah.
No one brought nods. So I'm training in order to be able to do laundry wherever my combat affected buddy goes. That's what I'm training for.
No,
but
somebody
really
told us, you know,
we're
not going to need it because we're going to be back in half an hour.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Oh yeah. But I looked at 6 after we got out of the van, and like people had on like the sling packs, like and I'm like coming out with like my actual kit, and like 6 had a ruck. I was like, oh dude, we went to the wrong party.
That's awesome.
I mean, a couple of them did have like little water bottles.
Little water bottles?
Yeah, I mean, I had a freaking MSR bladder 4 liter in my pack, and I'm like, did I bring enough water?
Yeah. I'm constantly thinking that too, and like just back to like the generic overall picture of water in the pillars, especially in this like civilian hiking, hunting, backpacking community. Everyone's obsessed with cutting. Everyone's heard ounces equals pounds, pounds equals pain. So they want the lightest dehydrated food. I'm
Right.
like, motherfucker, you need water to cook that. Now you got to carry twice
Yeah.
as much water, man. And people forget that. People are like,
Yeah.
well, no, I only need part of it. I'm like, no, you have 9 meals in your bag that all require half a liter of water. Do the math, homie. Plus, you need to drink that.
Yeah.
Well, and also, anytime you eat, that takes an outrageous amount of water to
100%.
digest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like, think of the physiology
100%.
behind this, man. Like,
Yeah.
come
And
on.
then it's like one of those
But-
things, right? Where, again, going back to all 4 of us in the military, if you've done anything for actual 72 hours unsupported, I carried a ton of water. I carried a ton because, like, I'm just like you,
Yeah.
Seven. I pounded the water, man. And even overseas, dude, I had like those stupid water bottles from the fob in my cargo pocket as I was walking. I'd smash that before I got to my Nalgene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, doing minimal work, just being on tower guard, I would kill a case
Yeah.
of water on
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
own,
100%.
like per 12-hour
Yeah.
shift. Like I'd walk up with a case of water and walk back down
That's
with
awesome.
trash.
Dude, yeah.
Like depending on your environment, man, like your body's gonna do what
Yeah.
it does. You can't fight your physiology. I just did a class on fighting
Yeah.
the sea monster. If you're sucking for sleep, your body's
Yeah.
gonna get it. Like your
Oh,
body will
no.
collect. So
It's the same with
just-
water, but people forget it, right? Because it's not sexy or it's not, I have nods and mags. I'm like, you probably need 7 liters of water if you plan on being this Minuteman for a day. Again, going back to cooking. Yeah, we talked about that too. No one ever
Yeah.
puts water in their belt kit or their chest rig. They're always like, oh, I'm going to have a CQ or a bunch of like jerry cans. I'm like, who's carrying that in your Minuteman group? Who's carrying jerry cans? Explain that to me.
Yeah. Who like have you ever carried
It's
a
terrible.
jerry can?
It's
Like,
heavy.
it's heavy. It's terrible.
Dude, it's the worst thing
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude,
Yeah.
we did that all the time when we did
Golly.
stress shoots. We were carrying 2 jerry cans a piece,
Yeah.
and then we'd run out there, run back, and get more,
Yeah.
and then go back, and then you'd have to shoot.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I know, but again, people in this prepared Instagram space, realistically, they're like, "Oh, I just need the latest platypus and water bottle." I'm like, "Okay, that's good for 2 hours, dude. Depending on your level of activity." Right?
Well, and it makes me sick, especially when, like we're talking about the consumer, always getting another
Yeah.
piece of kit, when I can go to the surplus store 20 minutes outside of my work and get an extremely capable belt
Yeah.
kit, full set for $50
Yeah.
bucks, and an extremely capable ruck for $50. And, people are saying that they can't go out and do stuff. Go out and do stuff and things.
Yeah.
Like, you are in the best time ever.
To do things now. Yeah.
Ever in human
Yeah.
civilization to
Yeah.
do things,
Yeah,
to learn things,
especially to learn
Like,
things. I mean, dear God, look at the
I don't know
internet.
how to do this. Like, you have a supercomputer in your pocket, man.
Yeah.
Have you heard of
Like,
Google? Come on, man.
I was thinking about going on, like, seriously, I was thinking about going on IG and just making a highlight,
Mhm.
a reel on literally just like linking
Yeah.
FMs. Like, what do you think I do when I put on classes, man? Like, I reference, like, every show note, I throw
Yeah.
references in there. Like, you have no excuse. Like, one, it keeps me accountable. Two, oh, I don't know this thing. Go
Yeah.
learn it. What do you think I
Yeah.
did?
A lot of people, though, like we keep saying, they just want to be told what to do. They don't want to be given different solutions to possible problems. They just want a one answer thing, right? And again, because Static and I have been outside longer than an hour, professionally and personally, whenever we give them a real answer, they don't like to hear it. Again, we're not pushing a product. And again, because like Static said at the beginning, we are huge gear guys, and like we both said this whenever we started our podcast together, like episode 0, we said we are going to pass on knowledge and skills based on our experience, so you don't have to suffer or make the same stupid mistakes, because we have so much gear. Or like we said, we've all been cold, wet, uncomfortable. So if I can help you to not be like that, I'm essentially doing a disservice by not helping you at this point.
Okay.
Okay, pause.
Okay, cool. Blows my freaking mind. I hate it so much. I'm looking out for gear for my buddy John, and it's like, he's gonna, whenever he gives me the green light, I'm gonna buy him a full blown Alice belt kit, like done $50, like pristine condition. Call it good.
Nods.
I got a
You're gonna
really
get
good.
nods.
Nods.
I got a really good.
I'm gonna buy him a shit ton of.
I got a really
kits.
good belt kit. I got a really good belt kit that I picked up whenever I was in the States with Static. I got it at a surplus for like super cheap.
Yeah.
What?
Fantastic.
the,
Heck yeah.
Hell yeah.
I got mine off
I'll bring out
Amazon.
my light fire rig if you
people
want.
get so people
It's
get so
ready.
butthurt, dude, the minute you mention sustainment because yeah, they get into this like 3 mags. That's all I need. Yeah.
But I have my P mags and an IFAC.
And I have a pistol, but I don't know how to shoot either.
That's the main thing. That's
Yeah.
the main thing. They love to do staged freaking photographs with all their
You
gear.
said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Here they are with 3 freaking mags, you know, the latest and greatest of gear, and they know how to use absolutely none of it.
Yeah, right. I heard about Serpa holsters this one time a few years ago, so now it's not about it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Poor. Go buy some knives.
The fucking water thing, dude, is
So-
like very weird. Sorry. It's just a weird concept that like
No, you're good.
yeah, people think they can get by with less, and like Six said it right away. Like they're used to this rear echelon supporting them, and people don't realize that.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just a weird concept that people think I only need this amount of water for this amount of days. And just like you guys said in your hiking story, like you went hiking with normal people and they didn't bring any water, which is super wacky. But Static and I say it all the time. And like again, there's a very big national park near me. I'm not to dox my exact location, but there's tons of tourists. There's tons of non-Canadian tourists. And I have been outside just for a day hike with my family with like my 2 dogs, and I see people with no water, which is fucking retarded. No water at all. I'm like, you're stupid. I'm not going to save you. And I'll and again, like, we always push this on our Instagram or our website or our podcast, but like, depending on how bad my day is going, if I'm walking by with my family, I'll look at them and be like, you have no water. You're fucking idiot. I'll just keep walking. I'm like, I'm not helping you. And it's just the thing. People don't seem to think they need it, which is surprising.
But it's crazy too what you say about planning, because you know, in their forward planning, if there was any, you're like, oh, I only need this amount of water. But if they would stop for like half a second and think about what would happen if they didn't have that water, like, and that panic that hits you when you don't have the water that you thought you had.
Oh, it's terrifying. Yeah. It's terrifying.
Like, if anyone's ever had that panic, like, you do not mess with water again.
Yeah.
You do not. Like, it is.
It's not even like, from.
You don't.
It's not even from like a tactical application, because again, like, I recently traveled to the States and it was a show. I was on like five planes, 4 airports. It was a gong show, and yeah, and like, but like the entirety of that process of me getting on multiple planes over multiple, like, 2 countries and multiple airports, I traveled with an empty water bottle in my bag so TSA would not take it, to not deal with this show of trying to find water at said airport. And like, that's not in the bush. That's not in this Minuteman shit, the fantasy. I was just a normal human being with a backpack in like jeans with shoes on, and I had a water bottle. So it like boggles my mind that people think they can go to the bush with a liter. It's very shocking to me that people don't understand the concept of, you probably need water, you're going to die.
Maybe they think they're going to be able to resupply at some stream. And be fine. But then again, that's the same people who are going to do that and not bring, say, aqua tabs.
Yeah, or a filter.
So they're going to end up getting sick.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
People live in such a sterile environment. If I ever start to feel proud of myself, I just go to my fireplace and I try to just light a fire with my ferro rod. And then I
cry,
just struggle for like 10 minutes, and then I hate myself, and that fixes it. I get home real quick. But
yeah,
it's like, that's great, man. You literally just had breakfast, your kid's playing in the background. What's gonna happen when you're tired and you're in
kid? Right? And
like, fix yourself, man. Like, aren't you embarrassed?
And like, Static and I say it all the time, because again, we've all been cold, wet, tired, hungry, miserable. So I'm like, it probably behooves you to have just the basic fundamentals of, if you have like the stuff to make the 4 pillars, you're probably not going to die. You may be more uncomfortable than Static or I, because we may arguably have a better skill set, but you're not going to die if you have one of the 4.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, man. Can I hop in real quick? I was listening to one of y'all's episodes, and you were you mentioned like having cotton balls.
That you dipped in for Vaseline. Fire for actual tinder. Yeah, cotton balls and Vaseline. Or you got.
Yeah.
You guys
awesome,
call it
man.
petroleum jelly,
So in
right?
my
In
fire
the
kit, we
States, you
have
guys call it petroleum jelly. In
Mhm.
Canada, we call it Vaseline.
Yeah, Vaseline. Yeah,
Oh, is it
yeah,
the same thing?
yeah,
Okay.
but
it's
Yeah.
Vaseline. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, but we so you guys have that you mentioned. In my fire kit, I have a little
Yeah.
Altoids tin. I have a Bic lighter, but I also have Six turned me onto. It's called Blackbeard Fire Starter, and it's just
Yeah, I've seen that.
just like
Yep.
cordage that's been impregnated with something,
Yeah, something.
and
Mhm.
it's awesome.
Everclear, something.
It lights like nothing, and Ferro makes you feel like a superhero. But
Except if you're trying to do it in your
say,
fireplace.
right. But always skills over gear.
Mhm.
But if you can, get that prior
Planning, yeah.
in,
Mhm.
if you can stack the odds, if you can
Yeah.
cheat,
Yeah, why
go
would you
for
not?
it.
Dude,
Why not?
I always tell you the only fair. Yeah, I tell you every time the only fair fight is the fight you win.
Yeah,
Stack the odds in your favor.
100%.
Always. It goes back to the economy
Yeah.
of labor.
Yeah.
Yes, if I have the skill set, if I have what I can do, yeah, if I can make tinder, but it takes me 20 minutes, if I can whip out a little thing of Blackbeard
Yeah.
in a couple seconds,
Yep.
that's time that I could be spending. That's calories that I'm not wasting.
Yeah. The other really awesome thing with like the Vaseline and the cotton balls, because again, we're trying to tailor our content to the average man or woman who's not from our background. That's something you can do with your kids. And we like Static and I've said this, like you can get a 12-year-old kid to rub petroleum jelly or Vaseline into a cotton ball and then teach them how, and like they think it's cool, and then now they have a skill set, and then you're essentially just like creating that like better mentality for a future generation instead of, oh, you're gonna go to the bush like Static said and have a Bic lighter and try to light a fucking log. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. No, but what you were saying about
essentially normalizing it for
about
like your
the
family,
Vaseline.
right? And teaching them a skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But also, so Six turned me on to that Blackbeard Firestarter, right? I had to go out and I had to buy that online, right? I had to search for it specifically and get it. You can get Vaseline and
anywhere.
cotton balls
Exactly. Anywhere. Doesn't matter where you live.
I mean yeah. So I was just saying that's a great plug. So I really enjoyed that when I heard that.
Except for cotton balls because we were cheap. So the lady who ran the Airbnb, we her bathroom. We stole them all.
Nice.
We pretty much went through her makeup drawer. We're like, yeah, we're taking this.
That's a
lot. Like, you don't need this.
That's a lot better than our freaking Airbnb was for my bachelor party. We got there and we had to go out to the store and buy
everything.
Kid you not, salt and pepper.
Oh God.
And toilet paper and paper towels. And every freaking
hear me
thing.
out. Hear me out though. They had like 40 different color sets.
Oh my God, yes. Jesus.
Literally, like you'd open a drawer and it'd be like spilling out. I'm like, why do you have this many?
Oh my God.
You don't host this many people. There's no salt and pepper. What's going on here?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess that's water. And then food, I guess, is the other one, right? And then again, because
food and shelter.
I mean, it's that simple.
Thank you for talking about growing food. No one else does that.
And like that's something that we talk about, and like Static wrote a super detailed article on our website on firstresponsefieldcraft.com about again, people are arguing people argue I live in an apartment, and Static's like, okay, here's how you grow food in an apartment, and I have photos to prove it.
Yeah.
Right. So so people kind of harp on that. Again, it's climate based, it's environment based, and we know that, right? Depending on where you live. But our whole thing is, well, everyone needs to eat at some point. So nutrition, and like nutrition,
yeah, awesome. So what me and my wife are doing right now, we want a homestead eventually. So we're in the process of looking through land, finding out where we want to be, and pricing everything out. But I think it's called. We're essentially homesteading now. What's called? I think it's like microsteading, but we're trying to offset costs and do as many things on our own in our yard or on land that we do have now. So we're going to be starting another garden here soon. Our last one failed because we had a pretty wicked frost.
Ooh, yeah.
But we're planning. We have chickens. I'm trying to expand to where we can keep rabbits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're very passionate about it, but just the feeling you get when you see those eggs start to pop up on your counter, and you're like, oh man, I don't need to buy eggs this week. You can just having that self-reliance, doing that yourself. It's incredible. I mean, we just had her granddad got a deer for us, and I was able to harvest that and process all of that last week. And it's like, man, there's nothing better than having meat
100%,
and just. Oh yeah, man! It tastes so much better.
Yeah.
So I love it. here for it, and we have what we need to do to can. So once we have surplus, we can do that. We'll learn how to smoke, smoke meat and everything. But just these are skills that everybody had
like 100 years
a
ago.
couple hundred years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, like
Everybody did.
everyone did it, and it wasn't just some Navy SEAL Delta operator who knew how to can. Like your grandma knew how to can, and it's a thing that people have just forgotten.
I mean, or hell, man, hit up a Costco or Sam's Club, whatever your guys like bulk warehouse type place is. I mean, we were going through Costco on a monthly trip, and I found 40-pound bags of rice,
super cheap,
or
super
sugar,
cheap, yeah,
flour,
it's insane.
Whatever. And it's like, goodness me, imagine people bought the black and yellow toast and threw that in their garage. We had last winter we had the Texas freeze.
So glad I was out of there by then.
So our neighborhood lost power for 4 days in 3-degree weather.
People were probably freaking out. People were probably freaking out. Yeah, normal people, right?
We had so many elderly people.
Crazy.
Die. But I had my wife and a 1-year-old, and it hit at like 6:00 in the evening. Sun was going down, and I just had a second of panic. That I'm like, okay, pull the couches together, get the tent from the garage. We're gonna put my boy in the tent, and I started a fire. And I had that fire going for 4 days. I cracked the brick in my fireplace because it wasn't designed to actually
put heat that much. Yeah, like that's crazy.
Oh,
yeah,
shit.
and I put blankets over like hallways, over our windows. Like I was like this could turn so incredibly quickly, and we're not ready for it. But thank God that night before
you pre-planned.
We were getting. Yeah, and we were getting news beforehand. It's like, oh no, this could be worse than I thought. And hey, Papa. And so I went out and bought like a 30 or 40 thing of like eggs, and we like almost didn't have any other food besides that.
Yeah, that's protein.
And so we were able to cook those eggs like the whole 4 days, and it's like, this is crazy stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like a weird concept, right? That like people haven't really thought of it until it hits the fan. Kind of like you were talking about with like the hurricane thing, right? On your guys' last podcast, people just wait till the last minute and then they expect to be helped.
And I screwed up in that one. I was so tired, and I was trying to do edits, and I accidentally, because we use Adobe Audition to edit, and I went through and I'm like, I don't like this this equalization. So I went back down in the bottom and deleted it, not realizing that when I deleted it, it deleted every single action that I made after that, which deleted an entire section of recording. And it's like 3 a.m, and I'm like, I got to re-record this. Okay, let me pull up my notes. And I started reading through it, didn't even think about it, recorded it, published it, threw it out there, and I'm like, did I just tell people that like the average person consumes 12 gallons of water a day? When it's supposed to be it's supposed to be 1.2, and I'm just like, oh my God. I cannot do this stuff when I'm tired. I can't do it.
That's awesome.
So now I have to go back and like re-record 1.2 and throw it in the edit and republish it so I don't look like a complete and total.
It's all a work in progress, though, this whole like podcast thing.
It is, and especially for us with we're not a master of any sort of like field, so we're taking all the subject matter experts' knowledge from each individual thing, combining it into one, and trying to make common sense of it for
everybody. Yeah, that makes total sense.
So it's a lot of information that we're digesting very, very quickly. So we're bound to make some mistakes along the way.
No, it's awesome though.
Like I just did.
And like everything you guys have put out so far, dude, like just like we said before we even coordinated for today, I'm like, man, like these guys sound like us, the way they speak, and like just their whole like approach to the prepared mindset, or like being self-reliant, or again from past experiences learned in the military or outside the military or before or whatever. Like a lot of people are just so focused on a gear solution, or like we keep saying back in special operations. I'm like, dude, the people listening to you are not doing a direct action hit on a high value target. Your application is irrelevant to these people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you did in your past unit. How can you apply it to that like single mom working 2 jobs who wants to like make sure when she loses power, her kids aren't going to die?
Yeah, yeah. That's how you learn how to navigate right there. Playing
There it
Arma
is.
and
Another
Daisy.
shout out. Another
Oh
shout out.
my
Yeah.
god.
You do not need to be Ranger qualified or long range patrolman qualified. You can just play Arma and run classes.
If I remember right, you said that guy wasn't even in. He was a
No,
civilian.
never in. Never in. But he trains with people who knew someone who was in. Because in their group, there's only one of them who was in. And he was in infantry.
Hey,
We're
he's
always
guard.
talking
This is gonna
about
be fun.
kind of like the 80% knowledge rule as well. And like, I think we talked about this in the group chat, but like, it's worth mentioning here that like, if I were to teach, all three of you one skill, let's just say fire as an example. I teach you guys how to make a fire lay and how to use the ferro rod. It doesn't matter how switched on you are or how motivated or how intelligent, you're only going to be able to retain 80% of what I teach you. So then I off. You guys teach a bunch of other people. They're only going to retain 80% of what you know. And then those people off and they teach another group, whatever. Now it's so watered down, the content and the material, that the original message that I gave you is so lost in translation. And again, referencing back to the three of you in your military experience, and I've told Static this, and he was mind blown. Canada doesn't have drill instructors. I know that seems odd, but we don't. But I think that does make sense because you have one standard being taught by one subject matter expert, essentially, or a group of them where that's all they do is teach fucking basic, right? They're not like they don't have another day job. So that way, that 80% like watered down thing will never happen. We're like right, regardless of the skill. But like going back to the fucking people on Instagram learning a skill they saw on YouTube. I'm like, you're just like Static said, you're learning it just through like auditory or visual. You've never really physically done it. Now you're teaching your neighbors. I'm like, that's retarded. You're not actually a subject matter expert in whatever you're teaching.
Right. Yeah, you missed that whole segment, man. We just ripped on them the entire time you were gone.
No, but like what you just said though, that makes perfect sense because well, right, and so that's how it was always taught to me was you don't know something unless you can teach it.
Exactly.
You don't know something unless you can teach it. If you can teach it, you got it down. Yeah. And so that's how I was always taught by.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I am so good at that. And getting yelled at. I've been yelled at.
I'm also really good at telling you it's always been like that. And I will prove to you that we do not need to evolve. Because it's always been like that, man.
Yeah.
I probably have a doctorate in that.
Dude, it's always been this way,
dude. Why are you questioning it?
Why are you being a thing for yourself?
Stop thinking private. It's always been like that. Like, cool, bro.
Yeah. It's a freaking good idea, Ferry.
I know it's not in the 4 pillars, but can we please talk about the drop-in method?
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring it up because Static doesn't like it because we talked about it and he thought I was wacky, stealing like a British idea. The drop-in method for the ruck, remember? When I told you the first time, dude? He doesn't remember. See, he just dumped it. He's like, we didn't do that in the airborne.
You changed
he doesn't remember.
I want you to know that you single-handedly changed our SOP.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Actually.
Thanks for that.
That's awesome.
I literally went and took a look at my freaking
your ruck?
Mr. Ranch frame, and I went,
was your mind blown?
It does work. What the Yes. Oh my god, yes.
Well, and I had these two ideas, right? I love my belt kit. I'm never going back. Like
you're sold on
like,
belt kit.
Sold on belt kit, right? But then I'm like, but to make this work, like it's unnecessarily heavy to have all my sustainment, all my sleeves, like everything, like on my belt kit. I was like trying to think. I'm like, all right, could I I could use an assault pack or maybe a medium ruck but then it would sit on the butt pack. So I was trying to like make all that make sense. But then we had one conversation. I'm like, oh, I could just throw.
And then you're like mind blown.
I just throw
my assault pack.
I just throw my belt kit in my ruck. Yep. I'm like, dang it.
Yep.
Because I use a Hill People Gear kit bag too. So I'm like, I don't even have the cop out saying I don't have the essential
like bare essentials for survival,
like rarely accessible because I do. I'm like, dang it. So yeah, I'm gonna do it forever.
The drop-in method.
I mean, it just makes perfect sense. It's awesome.
Okay, so I'll explain it for those who are not familiar with it. Again, because whenever I brought it up to Static, he just dumped it and he just laughed and said, "We didn't do it in my airborne unit."
Liar.
Okay, so anyone listening who's, again, this isn't pertain to military, but it is a military application, I guess. So if you're not in the military or you're not LARPing Minuteman with like a fighting order, it doesn't really apply to you. But if you are, I guess prepare to copy. These notes like actually make sense. So the principle is that your assault pack or your day bag, I hate using the term day bag. It sounds stupid, but your assault pack, your 3-day bag or whatever. You have all your mission essential kit in that, and then like your ammo, your 24 hours of water, 24 hours of food, whatever you need to arguably just fight with for 24 hours. Like not a sleeping system, not insulating layer, just bare minimum for a fighting patrol. You pack all that in your assault bag, and then you take that arguably 35-pound, 40-pound assault pack, and you drop it into your rucksack complete. And the only thing that's in your rucksack is your sleeping system, additional food and water, and that's it. And the whole principle of doing it this way is, again, in the military context, when you are in a light infantry role and you're rucking from your patrol base to your ORP, you're not trying to cross load at night, regardless if you have nods or not. You're not trying to cross load to your assault pack at night, and now you're going to lose stuff. So all my guys did was we just opened up our rucksacks, the main bag, and in partners while covering each other, one at a time. Each took out their fully loaded assault pack, threw it onto their body. We left our rucks in the ORP, which literally just had useless sleeping shit and extra food and water. And then again, if you did get bumped or you couldn't get back to the ORP or whatever, we could live out of our assault pack. Because the contrary, like, I don't know, belief or the way that it was like an SOP for the Marines. Again, I'm not on the Marine Corps, but I know it's on their field because I've seen it. They would load fully loaded assault packs clipped to the outside of the rucksack, which is retarded. All your weight's shifted off your body. Or again, try and climb an actual mountain with 2 loaded bags, one hanging off the other. It's ridiculous. So if you just have a fully loaded assault pack, you drop it in your ruck, then you could leave your rucksack and you're not going to die because you have like your fighting pack. Tried to cross load. Yeah, the drop in. Yeah, the drop in method. Yeah, yeah. And like again, it's like I don't want to say the mantra of like mission will dictate because that sounds like a cop out, but in my experience, whenever I was in a jump battalion, I've seen guys lose their empty assault pack underneath their ruck lid because they're like, "Oh, I'll cross load later," and then they jump out of the plane static line and it's fucking gone. And then we laugh at them in the ORP. I'm like, "Oh, sick, dude. Good thing you brought that stupid assault pack that you lost. Now you're carrying a rucksack the whole time."
I was a dirty
Oh,
leg.
that's
We
okay.
had so many guys who would lose entire rucks off the side of the striker. You're just like,
gone.
You get to wherever you're going,
Oh,
dismount,
God, yes.
Well, it's like,
where's my sleeping bag?
Where's your assault pack? It was in there.
It was in the ruck.
Oh, buddy. Like, I'm sorry, but you're about to have such a horrible time.
You're about to get a statement of charges.
But you brought that up to me, and it's like, goodness, man. Like, my entire live fire rig, like, I can fold that in, boom, in my ruck.
Yeah,
I'm good
you're
to
good
go.
to walk away.
I can
now.
do whatever movement, and then I have my fighting load, sustainment, everything. Just pull it out, and I'm done.
Yeah, and like,
and I can leave my sleeping system, for when I'm not using it in my ruck. I mean, it blew my mind. So,
yeah, and then again, it goes back to like we're not just shitting on the whole GWOT experience. Where like what we said, people were so reliant on the fobs, but again, our GWOT experience, I rarely rucked anywhere with a sleeping bag. It was just like a 60-pound assault bag with ammo and you know what I mean? So like the drop-in method does make sense again in that application because just like what Static said, if you are carrying platoon or company level defensive, I strap that to the outside of my ruck, but it's very easy for me to drop my fully loaded assault pack into a rucksack for that 6-kilometer infill. And then once I get there, I ditch my rucksack in the fob or whatever cops we're out of. And then now I have a 60-pound assault pack. And that's just the way that we did it. And like, again, I'm making it very clear. This is not something that I came up with. Some dude in my platoon who was in the British military, he had dual, so he served in 2 militaries, and he told us right away. He laughed and said, "You guys are stupid carrying an empty assault pack under your rucksack lid. You're retarded. I'll show you how to do it." And then it automatically became SOP within the platoon. We just changed it.
I love those guys. Yeah, exactly. And it automatically changed the entire organization.
100%.
Yeah, love it. But to your comment about GWOT and garrisons and everything, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with, like guys like Reaper 1-1, trying to put out good information for if we have to fulfill the role of guerrilla warfare, militia warfare, what have you, right? Do you really think that you're gonna go home at the end of the day?
No, probably not.
Nope.
Do you think that you're gonna leave in the morning with an assault pack, go back to your same house?
No.
Like it's not a good plan.
No. And then even from like a non-military application, and Static and I talked about this on one of our podcasts, if you're just a normal hiker or hunter, having the drop-in method for a quote-unquote day bag makes sense because you can ditch your sustainment to actually scout where you're going to hunt. Or again, if you're backpacking
Yeah.
and you're doing a 10-day, yeah, and like you're doing some
Mhm.
10-day backpacking trip, but you want to do a small day hike to a river, now you have a, day bag in your rucksack instead of you carrying, oh, I have to bring my
Mhm.
ruck with me because I didn't bring a second bag. It just makes sense in multiple applications.
Well, and not just sleeping system, but like
Yeah.
larger equipment, right? So something that me and Six were talking about when we were playing out our kit for this last this last outing we went on was trying to figure out what kind of field crafting equipment that we can take. I opted not to bring a full blown axe because I wasn't carrying a rucksack. But
I did.
if I chose to go with that, yeah, I mean, but imagine two guys with full size axes, instead of one with a hatchet. I mean, or having a breakdown shovel
A
versus
full shovel, yeah.
something a little sturdier.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do so much more. Not discounting skills over gear, but if you can have adequate gear, that it makes all the difference. Like you showed me the breakdown saw.
Oh yeah.
That you showed me.
Yeah.
As opposed to a little
that's where you got that.
saw.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah,
it's yeah,
it was for
I
me.
got it from him. I mean,
makes sense now.
It's
makes sense.
It's excellent. It's so much more efficient, and I mean, if you can do anything better, why not?
Do you guys both carry like for you 6 and 7? Do you guys carry a hatchet or like an actual woodsman axe when you guys go, or does it depend?
So, I carry a full axe.
Yep.
But I also carry a tomahawk.
Nice. I have a tomahawk too.
So, yeah,
Double
I figured that
redundancy.
was. I mean, Seven got me into that one. He was like, "Oh yeah, check out this tomahawk." I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking cool.
That's
I gotta
sweet.
get one." And sure, like the more you think about it, it's like the best of both worlds, where you can have a hatchet and also an axe
and an
if
axe,
you really needed it, and then you flip it around and you have a freaking hammer.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, because for Static and I, especially again on this trip, we weren't carrying a full size axe, but like we're both over 6'4", so we're like we probably need a bigger axe because it's so hard to cut wood with a small hatchet because we're both so tall and big. So like we're both stuck carrying. Yeah, and like we obviously have done it, but again, it's like what Seven said, economy of effort. I'm tired, whatever. I'm like, okay, and like not so much to harp on the PT thing because obviously that is an issue, but Static and I have also said if you are physically fit, it's okay for me to carry a bigger axe because I need it. Like it's really hard for me to cut wood with a hatchet because I'm so big. So I have to carry an axe, but I'm fit so I can carry it in my ruck.
Right. And the reason why I opted for the hatchet was specifically for my kit. I was trying to find something that I could break down and have on there and not, feel it jostling around if I was, go out and do a movement, something I could, break down or build up and do what I had to do. But if I were to carry, like a medium-sized ruck or a full-size ruck, using the drop-in, I would definitely carry
a bigger axe.
Yeah.
It makes way much more sense, especially if I'm, trying to process wood.
Yeah. And especially with
for all the warriors to make their shelters.
I'll just man their stove.
Oh my god.
All I'm good for.
Oh my god. Well, plus that full size axe fits great inside that Philby.
It does.
It has that side sleeve.
It does, 100%. Dude, just right down there with like the handle at the bottom, and that it's awesome.
It's unfair. Oh. That's the first thing I noticed. I saw a little handle sticking out. I was like, "There's no, no."
Philby's gold.
I mean, I did axe head down. Like the axe head was down.
Axe head down, and then the handle up. Yeah, I got it the same way.
Yeah.
The way I've got it, I have a 2-mag pouch that fits my tomahawk head that I put in, and then I actually use the built-in little canteen pouches, and I use some shot cord.
Oh, nice. That
sticks straight onto the webbing, and it tucks right in behind my left shoulder, and I don't even know it's there.
It's amazing the amount of crap you can put in that thing.
Yeah,
it's insane.
It's so much fun. I had to. So when I bought the kit, I saw initially he was advertising on Instagram.
His belt kit. Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, and so I initially saw that. I was like, oh man, that has a lot of potential, and I looked into it more, and I ended up buying it. And for me, the biggest change it's made is just a different mentality on equipment. So, like we said before, trying to do
Yeah.
more with less. Whatever I carry, I want to have a
Mm-hmm.
tertiary, a secondary, tertiary function if possible, right? If it can't, I want it to be
Yeah.
smaller. And so, just trying to minimize, that old mindset I had of I have to fill this
Yeah.
entire ruck to I can do about everything I need to
On
on
a belt kit, yeah.
And that's been the biggest change for me.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, Velocity System
Yeah,
puts out some good stuff, like that Mayflower rig. Oh my god,
they really do. My gosh. Yeah, but talking about permanent shelters, I forget his entire handle, but on Instagram, Critter, he's like a combat engineer type, and he put out a post a few weeks ago on like squad level equipment for specifically for engineers, just to get the weight off the engineer, like stuff that could like force multipliers for his capability.
Critter
And it makes me
1371.
think of thanks.
Yeah,
Critter 1371 on Instagram.
Shout out.
Shameless, the guy puts out good stuff, but it makes me think of what you could do for sustainment for fieldcraft with that. So if you have instead of you maybe one other, if you had 4 guys who could pack some serious kit for fieldcraft, how long could you actually stay out for? If you weren't trying to cut corners, or if you weren't trying to make 8% solutions work, if you had dedicated stuff that imagine if you had a guy with 1,000 meters of bank line. I mean,
oh my god,
just, and you could realistically do that if you had dedicated roles. So it's cool to think about. Yeah, and it makes me think of your guys's 10 item list episode.
Yeah,
right. So that's just episode. You guys.
Thanks.
All right. How long could if I was going for the longest I could possibly survive? What were the 10? Now imagine if you could fill entire ruck, and then like you said, fill out with 10 guys. I mean, you could do so.
You could probably
much.
take over a country.
So
again, based on skill, right? If you drop 10 dudes off, they could just take over completely.
Well, and I'm not going to use that segue, but something we're working on.
I was going to say Canada, but yeah.
Goodness. No, something that I guess we could tease is we're working on a concept for what I'm calling the hunter killer team squad.
Nice.
This is good stuff.
So very low census, very low manpower. So talking 3-man teams, 9-man squad, and what that skill set and what that equipment needs to look like in order to make that actually combat effective. So it's been our baby for a few months now, but I love like what you guys coined 8% solutions, and just like maximizing your potential with what you have. And it always boils down to skill set. If you have 3 extremely well focused, confident, well-trained dudes, you can do more than you can with a squad of just new guys who don't give a crap. So it's a lot of fun to to focus on these foundational skills so that you can build up later, and just seeing the multipliers happen.
How many guys are in a squad again? Sorry, because I'm the odd man out. How many dudes are? Is it 10 or 8? For Doctrine. 12? How many are in a squad?
4-man team, 2 teams, 3 teams.
So there's how many? 12?
Well, with or without a gun team?
Just like generic rifleman.
Oh,
generic rifleman squad. Sorry. How many guys? 8?
2 teams.
2 teams, but then a squad leader. So that's like 9?
Yeah,
9
so
guys?
9.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then just like you said, those 7, right? If you have, half those guys are new guys and lack skill, like it's arguably useless. Because again, just in my experience with my unit, we were called debts, like detachments, and we only had 4 dudes, but we were all the same rank, so like an E5. So we were, not new people. So supporting a conventional rifle company, the 4 of us could last longer with less gear, and we did do that. Like I didn't go anywhere with a ruck most of the time. We just had an assault pack and a belt kit. But again, but the 4 of us were the same rank, same skill, and like our weapon systems matched to be independent of the company or support the company based on the company's needs, right?
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Or as a contingency, right?
Yeah.
I mean, great. Cool. Well, it sounds like what you're talking about with your seat. You said D, right?
Det. So
Yeah,
like
like
detachment was like the actual acronym, but like usually it
Yeah.
was just called like, because it's Canada and we're lame and static bugs me all the time. We never had cool call signs for like hunter or murder or like something. It was always like, yeah, like it was always like,
Oh my
honestly, man,
god.
the dumbest call sign. So it was like 6-1 Det or 6-2 or 6-3 or like 3-3-2. Like whatever company you're attached to, everything was just like numerical because it's Canada and we're lame. But
Right.
yeah. So in our
Yeah.
organization, it was just called Debts, and there was four of us. And again, we were all the same rank.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Well, I like that
yeah.
though, and it makes me so talking about like having the better
yes,
quality of dudes, right?
yeah,
So the way that conventional force, per doctrine, you have your your
yeah,
line squads, but then you also have your fire
yeah.
teams, or not your fire team,
Your weapon
your weapon
squads, yeah.
squad, right? With your two gun teams, and the way that my platoon ran, I think should be just doctrine across the board, was our squad leader had run to where he only had squared away
Yeah,
dudes on his gun
yeah.
teams. So he would cherry pick
The
out
platoon
of
or the line
the line
squad,
squad,
yeah.
out of the fire teams of his platoon. And in his mind, when you got to a level of proficiency, so you'd have to make it up to
Mm-hmm.
team leader. But then after you're a team leader for a while and you get squared away, he would graduate you to a gun
That's
team.
awesome.
And then you would start off as the gunner,
The lower dude, yeah.
man in the team. And then after you got schooled up on being a gunner, you'd move up to be the AG, the assistant gunner. And what happened when you did that was you had the cream of the crop of your platoon running your
stacked,
gun teams,
yeah.
who had done every single
That's smart.
job in a fire team, who could perform the job of a squad leader if
Yeah.
they had to, specifically on his gun teams. And so obviously he was in control of his gun teams, but we could act independently if we
Awesome.
needed to. If we saw that fires needed to be changed, you could figure it out, man. I trust you because I've seen you go through this whole training cycle. I've gone through an interview with you. I've, seen you work, and, we're good to go. And we got a lot of leeway with that in the platoon because our squad leader was so on
Mhm.
point with that. And he'd bully our platoon sergeant to pretty much whatever he wanted to do.
And that's why I liked going out with your squad too, was you guys were so squared away. But when I had to work with, say, second platoon or first platoon, it was just a bunch of rerees. It was so bad. They didn't know their head from a freaking hole in the floor. It was so bad. I am so surprised they didn't get clapped more times than they probably should have.
Yeah. I mean, but
Makes me glad I was in headquarters.
Right. But
I'll take being an RTO
I am
all day,
absolutely
baby.
obsessed with. I am obsessed with building, with raising that standard
100%
for your
guys,
base level,
yeah.
dude. Because if you have a higher standard just from the low
Yeah.
riflemen, I mean, imagine what that does for the rest of your organization.
Right.
Man. It's huge.
Yeah, and then it almost like, again, for us, even though, because we're like a 4-man detachment, so we did have like I don't say team leader, but we just called him, like in Canada it was like Det commander, so he was in charge of the Det, and then we had a Det 2IC, like the second in
Right.
command. But because we were all the same rank, arguably, it didn't matter who led it that day because we would literally take turns running it because the other 3 dudes knew the commander's job so well, right?
Nice.
That's how it should
Yeah.
be. You should be teaching the guys under you how to take your job.
Yeah. And you guys both talked about it in one of your podcasts when you guys were breaking down the squad and like just like the rifleman platoon and all the different jobs. And you guys, I think you nailed it on the head when you said it's a fear thing now. People don't want the person below them to take their job because they want to prove that they're still competent or that they're valuable. So they're not teaching the dudes below them. Whereas in my unit, the whole thing was, I'm not only going to make the dude below me better, it's that if I need to be replaced, he will be better than me. And that's the whole point. Right.
And you should also be striving to take the person's job above you.
Yeah.
Like push them
to be better. Exactly. It's just a weird dynamic now, again, with like what we keep saying. The military now is kind of weird with what they're pushing, but I definitely saw the change in, for sure, the last conflict. People just didn't really care about doing for us, it was always 2 up. That's the way they said it, right? You were trying to do the job of 2 dudes above you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
we did.
That was really goodness.
So many times I had to.
But that got that really hit home when I was in a gun team. Just the you have your 2 guys, your gunner, your assistant gunner. But what I loved the most, what really humbled a lot of dudes when they first got onto a gun team, was making them run through dead gunner drills.
Oh, God.
And it, yeah, man, hell yeah. But
That's fantastic.
nothing humbles people more than, all right, you're dead. And it's like, well, what do? You're dead gunner drill, and your AG rolls over, throws your ass off, and he gets back on the gun, because I don't care who you are. I don't care how great you were. That gun needs to stay up.
Yep.
I mean, and it's a great analogy. Keep the gun, man. Stay in the fight.
Yeah.
Don't matter.
It's just one of those things.
Suck for that.
It's one of those things, just like you said, if you raise the standard higher from the get-go, people would like take it more seriously, right? Because again, our breakdown was much smaller, so we all had 2 jobs. It wasn't just like you're the commander, because like we didn't have. Again, I think you guys like the radio operator guy you guys have. So like we didn't have one of those. So the commander carried his own radio. He did both. Mm-hmm. And then for us, the second in command was also like the medic. You know what I mean? So like everyone did 2 full jobs because we didn't have enough people.
That's crazy.
And then like, yeah, go ahead, dude.
Well, you know what else he did was he protected that.
Yes.
I think that's a huge thing too. So when you're in a position, you need a position of leadership, you need to, one, recognize that, and you need to foster that, right? So you need to respect those dudes. You need to make, like you said, you need to make that worth. And when they see that, if they have, I can't think of a better word for it, but like prestige, right? But you're like, oh man, like I want to go into weapon squad. 1, because my squad leader will talk to me like I'm a human being. 2, he shielded that entire squad from that detail.
Yep.
He said, no, my dudes have something better to do.
I used to do that all the time.
And he went out and trained with them. Or, no, man, we're not going to do that. Like, that's a waste of time. My guys work too hard for that. Like, if you see that, and that's like a daily thing, if that's a happening thing, you're like, oh, man.
You want to join that team.
Yeah, I want to actually do my job.
Yeah.
Did you guys already do the shelter?
Yeah, we did.
Food?
Oh, sure. Do you want to go about shelter? We're all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, food was like 2 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, do what you gotta do. Yeah, could we knock out those 2 as well?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know how long my boy came in. He had to get some water, apparently.
No, like literally while you were gone, we literally just on those longhouse guys.
You waited till I was gone?
Oh, dude, it was.
Oh, look, I brought it. The belt kit.
It was heavy.
Yes.
Nice.
Oh. Why is it so pretty? Look at that thing.
Because it's OD green.
But people get so butthurt over minimal.
But you could do so much.
And you know what's funny? What I always reference, and like I'm a huge movie guy, and so is Static, like loves movies. But Tears of the Sun, like awesome movie. But those guys, man, you could live out of belt kit and an assault pack if you're not a retard. They prove it. Yep. You could totally do it. If you have 8 studs instead of 32 turds, you could do it.
Yep.
Yes.
But people don't want to hear that all day because those guys are all rocking belt kit.
And that's the whole premise of what we're trying to do with the hunter killer teams.
Yeah.
It's just like get studs, get people who know what they're doing. You don't need like the moron from down the street. Like, dude, get people who know what they're doing. Well, if they don't know what they're doing, train
yourself
them.
A stud.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. Make bully your friends into being studs. Like the whole premise of, like you said, the hunter killer team is, I thought it was, it's kind of arrogant, but I thought it was unreasonable to expect you to be able to find a full fire team and a full line squad. So I'm like, okay, but anybody can grab 2 dudes. Anybody can grab 2 dudes. And then when you have that team, right, you can make another team and another team, and that's a full squad. Or if you need to, you can operate with that 3-man team independently.
Yeah.
Straight gorilla.
And, like a quasi cell kind of thing.
Exactly.
Or 2 teams, and then you can have fire and maneuver. I mean, it's modular, but it's stackable, right? And you can do wherever you need to with that. But if you have your team lead who's acting like a team leader and RTO, all right, there's that need done. If you have your support by fire element, okay, that's done. And then you have a third guy who can be your task man. Do you need a medic? Do you need a drone operator? Do you need a dog team? Do you need breachman / grenadier / engineer? I mean,
DMR.
But you can't do that unless if you have all those. Unless you have studs and unless you have all of your foundational skills done. Unless you have those down pat, you can't focus. You can't do everything else. It's too much.
We never
So,
even did
yeah.
we never even did PCIs or PCCs within the det because we were all the same rank and we knew it didn't fucking matter. I didn't have to check my guys because they all had secondary roles and like I could talk to them like a human because we were all the same rank. I didn't need to check their
Yeah.
water because they knew they had water. You know what I mean? It's just again, it's just
Did you shave and wear the same
Oh my
clothes that
God.
I'm
yeah,
wearing?
right. And like Static and I have talked about this too, right? Like the whole Fieldcraft like mantra. If everyone just had a better baseline, we wouldn't have to focus on dog. We could focus on better shit because everyone knows shelter, fire, water, food. So then we could focus on sexier training or whatever.
Stop caring if your dudes are shaved while you're deployed.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
Oh, dude, Static loves the blouse boots, man. He hates my mullet and my beard. He fucking hates it. He hates the mullet
Deployed,
and
I
beard.
never bloused ever.
Yeah, dude,
Oh,
he hates
God.
he hates that I fucking was overseas with unbloused boots and long hair and a mullet.
Goodness.
Seven, did you ever
No.
blouse your boots while you were over there?
Blousing boots.
So from day one, I always just tucked my trousers into my boots.
I did that too whenever I was a
I
private.
never touched a boot blouse
I did
in
that
my
as
life.
well. I usually tucked them in.
Literally not. Yeah, no, literally not once have I ever used a. I didn't know what it was.
The boot band?
When some,
yeah, the
like,
boot band or
Well,
whatever.
I'm not talking about the boot
I didn't know
bands.
what it
I'm
was.
talking about like doing that while you're deployed.
Oh no, never.
While we were in Afghanistan, did you actually blouse your boots?
You should blouse your boots.
Oh my God.
Me. Be me, a PFC, 2017.
Oh God.
Coming off of Black Hawk after a mission, have some E7 walk up to me, ask me where my PC is.
Oh my God.
I don't know, man. It's probably in the barracks. Like, I just got home. Like, what do you want me to do?
Shout out.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Shout out. Goodness. What the hell? That's a huge can, dude. Oh, that's
Yeti.
Yeti. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The monster?
You
thought that was a
like,
monster?
No, I thought that was your Guinness. I was like, homie, like, are you okay?
Jesus.
Awesome.
No, it's the same process I used in Garrison. Well, I had to work in that freaking office. I had one of those that was just filled with Jack and Coke.
That's awesome.
Every day.
That's
I drank
awesome.
one before lunch and then drank water at lunch and then brought another one in after lunch. And we just got hammered.
It showed. It showed.
I did better work than the rest of you.
Oh. So.
Boots were blouse, though.
Right.
Every day. So on IG, you guys posted about your recent hunting trip. I saw a really built-up shelter. So you want to talk about that a little bit? Cool. So what would you say is your what would you say that the layman would need to focus on? I guess what should be their I guess their
baseline?
Their baseline for for shelter.
Yeah. As long as people are carrying a tarp and like again we keep saying the skills over gear, but you know, you can't make all this if you don't have a tarp. So
yeah, honestly, you know, we referenced Alone earlier in the episode, but that is such a great tool for me to watch, just going through the seasons and watching where other people have succeeded and where other people's have failed. I think my favorite episode was when they sent them to Alaska, and it wasn't a time challenge. It was, or I guess it was time challenge. It wasn't just as long as
it was like 50 days. I think it was 50 days they had to last in Alaska, right?
Yeah, like 50
or
100
days. Sorry, 100 days. Sorry, 100 for Alaska. Yeah, so they had to. For that they just had to last 100. Yeah.
And seeing what people came up with.
Right.
How about that? But
what do you
my two favorite examples were I think it was like a former sniper instructor or something, and he built out this whole hut with a actual chimney and everything, and then so that was great until he quit, and then
I mean he only quit because he was missing his kid.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, it was like a mental thing. It was a mental thing
right?
for him. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I bet the kid. Yeah. I guess your kid's not going to go to college now, huh? Anyways, and then the other guy who, until he lost, he did not have a permanent
Which
shelter.
is so weird because
he focused on trying to perfect like every step of the way, like build like the absolute best from the get-go, and he never had a full shelter until like by the time he lost. So he never made that mental switch of I need to have something that's effective now and I can build on it later. So he had his priorities shifted, but it's just really cool to see all the different examples that people come up with, and like I said, to see where others failed. So definitely the mental.
Another thing for shelter too, and like I'll reference Alone again, it's in season 1, the guy who won it, he found almost like a natural shelter, so he used the least amount of energy to build up a one-sided shelter against a rock face, because the guy focused on trying to get food and water, whereas everyone else had like wax tarps, and this guy's like, okay, what's the most natural thing I can find, so I'm saving the least amount of energy. And yeah, he lasted everybody.
Well, I like what you said about about building something effective, and then building off of that and up and out from that as you go. Focus on your essentials, make sure what you have, is effective. But then, if you have your food and water, then you can build up a wall. Yeah, go for it. But, make sure that you're not lacking on any of those pillars.
Yeah, it's just
same principle that we've been kind of going through with our skills as well. As long as you have a good foundation along with a good base shelter, you can build on from there.
Yeah.
But you got to be good at the basics.
Right.
So you got to have a good shelter before you can freaking build up a mansion. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, and it's just something that people are, again, we've been saying it for the whole podcast, but people are so focused on gear, whereas Static and I are like, if every person focused on the 4 pillars of survival, all the other doesn't really matter.
That's awesome. To to really harp on the skill side though, you said that you had like the cheapest axe that you found on Amazon, you had your knife, you had your bank line, but if you didn't know how to tie the effective knots that you needed, wouldn't have happened. If you didn't know how to sharpen your knife, like you said in your deer processing episode, you sharpen your knife like twice during that endeavor, right? If you weren't able to do that, that's a harder task, more prone to injury, right? So if you don't have these these little foundational skills, if you can't sharpen a knife, if you can't tie a knot, if you don't know how to how basic structuring works, right, then what are you supposed to do with that?
You're gonna have a bad time.
Finding a shorter path to to the same endpoint. But something else I wanted to touch on with the with your equipment, you said you didn't have the best equipment, right? But if you had to use that for an extended period of time, you have the skill set to where you can maximize the the motility of that equipment, right? So you mentioned earlier in the episode with fire, you can harden wood with fire. That also protects the wood from insects, water, and fire itself, right? Building up that that layer of carbon. So very, very useful skill set to have. You have to have a good hand for it. You have to practice it, but after you do it, it's done, and you've increased the motility of that equipment, knowing how to sharpen a knife or an axe. There's no reason why you shouldn't have a sharpener in your kit somewhere. And you can translate that not just to the axe, but to knives, to anything bladed in your kit.
Yeah,
pretty much. Save saws. That's another endeavor entirely. But yeah. I mean, we just went through entire deer, and I need to use that as a learning opportunity. I need to buy some dedicated knives for that, because what we have just lying around in the home isn't enough. We got it done, but man, oh man, it could have been so much. Oh, it could have been so much simpler if I had a good dedicated processing knife. But so, is there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on while you were here?
I think we covered a lot for or like as much as we could for the broad subject of Fieldcraft, but I definitely want to come back on your guys' show again, because I want to hear about your hunter killer breakdown of a squad, because I'm very curious on your team layout, because it's just like I said, right? It's interesting to me because we're different militaries, and like we didn't have squads. They were totally different breakdowns, and like we had to have secondary roles. So
yeah, I mean, I think I speak for both of us that you guys are always welcome on.
Yeah,
we loved having you guys, and I think you said when we were first began talking was we're cut from the same 100%. Cloth. It's such a relief to to find guys in the community who are on the same exact page and want the same thing. I mean, your guys's motto, your ethos, assets not liabilities. We want to train a better class of men and women. I mean, we're all working towards the same goal, and we together we are, I truly believe that we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So just need to, and that's my thing is, I've always, from the beginning, I've always believed that if you have strength or knowledge or experience, it's your duty, it's your responsibility to pass that on to people that don't. And so it was so cool to, to find you guys and to see that you guys, are doing
That's
that.
awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, of course,
thanks, guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for coming on. I mean, this is going to be a huge resource for people, and like I said, hopefully we can have you guys on in the future, and if you guys want us to come on, then we're more than happy to do that as well.
100%. We will get you guys on ours, and we're gonna have to make a 2-parter, one where we just can call out people for gear, and then
yeah
one where we can actually talk
Great
about
trolling.
tactics. One will just be trolling for
God.
3 hours.
Oh God.
Look, my thing is, if they deserve it, they deserve it, and you shouldn't be that way.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah.
There you go. So there's a chart, the amount that you find around, leads up to, how much you find out.
Yeah, exactly. So, but a lot of people didn't want to hear it.
No, I mean, so be it.
You find out a lot more if you have some.
But goodness. Well, a little bit of house cleaning. You guys want to, once again, put out your IG handles, where we can find you guys, your website, where you guys can get all the information that you're putting out.
Sure. So we'll just start with IG because there's 3. So our joint one is First Response Fieldcraft. And then there's Nomadic Fieldcraft, which was it was mine when I started, but it's nearly as much static as mine because we do a lot of collaboration on it. But that's more the training side. It's more the training side, yeah. And then Static Line Outdoors has his own Instagram. Static Line Outdoors, the same name for his YouTube, where again it's all proof of concept. Like, it's him filming himself literally after work, doing everything we talk about. He videos it and shows it. Yeah, he proves it. Yeah. Because he's less camera shy than me. Because people keep asking why my face is blurred out. I'm like, the camera doesn't like me, so it's static. He's cool with that. And then our website, that's static. He's the one running it. It's firstresponsefieldcraft.com, and we have all of our articles. And then, like we said before, our podcast link is on there, and future training that we're trying to get going. Because again, we've had enough of people ask for kind of a very intro to fieldcraft, so we're trying to get training going. It's just very hard logistically with, again, us being in 2 different countries across 3 different time zones, working 2 different full-time jobs. It's fucking difficult to coordinate. Yeah, so it's kind of a gong show. But yeah, again, if anyone wants any information, hit us up, message us. Like, we're both human. And every time I get a message, I message back. And so does Static, as long as we're around.
Yeah.
And then same thing for training. Because just this upcoming, again, depending on when you guys post this, but in December, I'm taking a dude out one-on-one, and I'm trying to get another guy in Alaska in February, because again, they reached out to me and they want me to come one-on-one to just kind of do our intro to fieldcraft. So,
man, that's awesome. That's really cool.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can come out, because I'd love to get a class. I love learning stuff.
Heck yeah.
Just need to get the Canadian down here. Well, whenever we do post this, though, we will put all of your guys' links and everything in the description.
Thanks.
So if you're listening to this, you can find them in the description.
Got to pay for them nods.
Assets not liabilities. Anyway.
Asses, not liabilities.
Goodness. And you can find us anywhere that you podcast. And it was so great having you guys on.
Yes,
thanks again, guys.
We're here to train up a better class of man, and we truly believe that you guys are furthering that goal. So thank you for coming on. Yeah, of course. And you guys are always welcome back. So wherever you are, wherever you're doing, stay safe and stay in the fight.
Bye, everybody.